whatever you do, do not buy a 4K monitor because it is going to ruin your life. Let's talk about it.
What's up, gamers? I hope you're having a great day today, just full of positivity and happiness, dude. Because today we're going to be taking a look at a video by a YouTuber named none other than Graphically Challenged. And apparently your life is going to end instantly if you get an HDMI 2.1 gaming monitor. You know, just a fantastic take, all in all things considered. But in all seriousness, let's take a look at this video and see why buying an HDMI 2.1 gaming monitor will single-handedly ruin your life.
Alright, so before we get into this video, I just want to say up front that I absolutely love 4K monitors.
Yeah, that's exactly why they're gonna ruin your life, right? Because you love them.
I mean, the quality that you get out of these panels is definitely just that next level, and the 4K 144Hz monitors especially just give you a really exceptional experience. So if you're someone who's out there with like an RTX 3090 or a 6900 XT, you already have one of those graphics cards, I mean, getting a 4K 144Hz panel is definitely going to be something that's going to be, you know, just really beneficial to you because you're going to be getting the most out of your GPU. However, during this video, I'm going to try and convince you not to buy a 4K monitor, and to do so, first we have to start out with a little story.
Oh great, now we have to listen to this. I'm just gonna speed it up for you guys because we really don't need to hear this.
So when I first started PC gaming, I was using a 1080p 60Hz monitor. Even back then, though, I could kind of tell, the pixelization was definitely very noticeable, and so I really wanted to upgrade my monitor, and I decided to go from a 1080p 60Hz monitor to a 4K 60Hz monitor, and this was back during, like, the GTX 700 series, and I think when I moved to 4K, I had, like, a 980, or maybe I was doing 980 SLI. I can't necessarily remember at the time. I do remember doing SLI a couple times in the past, but in any case, I moved to 4K, and right away, the difference was just absolutely stunning. It was very, very noticeable. The 4K monitor looked way, way better. However, it came at a cost, and that cost was I had to spend way more money on my graphics cards to even be able to use it. However, as I started playing more and more games, I realized that I needed to move to a 144Hz monitor, and when I did go ahead and do that, I like the 1440p displays because that's what I decided to move to, as I just simply was not going to be going back to 1080p, since when you go to 4K, that's going to be really difficult, and I think you can start to see where the problem is coming in here. So when you move up to a 4K panel, it looks so nice and so crisp that it's hard to go back to anything else, at least at like a 27-inch size. And honestly guys, it took me a number of months or even years to get used to a 1440p panel, which is absolutely ridiculous because the pixel density on a 1440p panel is really good, and it honestly should be more than good enough for gaming, especially since it's going to be a lot easier to drive than 4K, and it still gives you that good pixel density. And there
are a lot of very nice 1440p displays out there, and in fact, right now, if I was going to build a gaming PC for someone, I would definitely recommend getting a 1440p panel.
So I do definitely recommend that 1440p panels are a great value option, but what about the people that are getting it for their new next-gen consoles? I mean, there's going to be a lot of games like Halo Infinite that's going to be playing at 4K 144Hz. And not a lot of people want to do 1440p 144Hz, especially if they have enough money to afford a 4K at 144Hz panel.
Because again, you can get a really nice one and they're a lot easier to run. You can run something like an RTX 3060 on a 1440p panel, and you can play most games with their like highish, maybe even ultra settings on a lot of games, and you really won't have too much of a problem getting well over 100 frames per second, which is going to be very good for gaming. As honestly guys, 60 FPS is fine for gaming at like single player games, but if you're playing any type of FPSs or you're playing any type of online gaming, 144Hz is definitely a must. You're definitely going to need it, and this is where things get really, really bad because if you are investing in a 4K panel, especially a 4K 144Hz panel, you're just going to see yourself continuing to upgrade your graphics card.
And that's assuming that most people getting 4K 144Hz panels are playing extremely graphically demanding games. I mean, I know a lot of people would like to play games like CSGO or Overwatch, which definitely does not require 3080 or 3090 to play. You could play Overwatch at 4K 144Hz easily with a 3060 or a 3060 Ti.
And spending more and more and more and more money on your rig, and pretty soon you're going to find yourself with like an RTX 3090. You're going to be running a full custom water loop so you can get the best clocks out of your RTX 3090, so you can try and get as much performance out of your 4K display as possible. Because
okay, so right here is a classic case of projecting. Just because you like to water cool and upgrade your PC with all these minor little upgrades and overclock like crazy doesn't mean everybody who gets a 4K 144Hz panel wants to squeeze out every ounce of performance they're gonna get.
Now that you're so used to 4K, you're not going to want to go back to 1440p, even for competitive gaming.
Yeah, no, I've seen 4K, and if you're playing on a gaming PC, which is primarily what this guy's talking about, at something anywhere below 32 inches, you're really not going to notice that big of a difference. It's pretty easy to go from 4K to 1440p. Obviously, if you're playing on a TV, then that's a different story, but if you have a monitor, then it's pretty easily going from 4K to 1440p. Not that big of a difference.
Meaning that you're going to be spending more and more money on your machine. And honestly, guys, when I was using a 1440p panel, I had a pretty good one and it was doing just fine. And I felt like it looked very, very good. And then all of a sudden, I started getting that itch again because I had gone from a 4K panel to a 1440p 144 hertz. And while that 1440p 144 hertz monitor was definitely doing a better job, and it was definitely working out better for me, I just still had the itch. I want to get that 4K clarity.
Literally, the biggest difference it makes is you have slightly clearer text for when you're typing an email or you're on Microsoft Word.
So I ended up going on eBay and I found a used, I believe it's called the PG27UQ. It is an HDR 1000 4K 144 hertz monitor. Now it was like half the price on eBay because it had a couple nicks and little damages on it.
Well, that monitor's not the only thing with a bunch of nicks and little damages on it. I mean, your name says it all. Graphically Challenged. The name itself deserves to be roasted.
But as soon as I moved to that 4K panel, I was running a 3070 and I was thinking to myself, the 3070 is more than good enough for this 1440p panel. I'll never need anything more than a 3070 to run 1440p, at least not for a long time, and 8 gigabytes isn't going to be a problem. Well, as soon as I moved to that 4K 144 hertz panel, yeah, there was a huge problem. The 3070 was not going to cut it for playing games such as Apex Legends.
Then lower to 1440p. Not that big a deal.
At even the low settings at 4K, it was just really struggling to hit over 100 FPS. So then I found myself moving over to an RTX 3080, at which point it definitely got a lot better. The 3080 was able to handle 4K a lot better, but I was still saying to myself, this isn't quite good enough, and I ended up finding an RTX 3090, and I did the unthinkable. I bought an RTX 3090.
Like I said, classic case of projection. I don't think there's a single person in the world that would go from a 3070 to a 3090 just for 4K at anywhere lower than 32 inches. That is insane. Clearly you don't know what you're doing with your money. And again, most people playing at 4K 144 Hz aren't PC gamers. They're console gamers.
Which is just a ludicrously expensive video card. Nobody should really need an RTX 3090 for gaming, but I did it because I wanted the extra frames on my 4K monitor. And now you can see, and by the way, that 3080, I had a friend who really wanted a 3080, so I was able to get it to him for MSRP. So he was really glad about it, but I definitely lost out on that deal buying a 3090. Yeah, I definitely lost a lot of money there. But
yeah, you did lose out on a lot of money. All for what? 4K? Not worth it.
Yeah, as you can see here, guys, what happens is you move to a 4K monitor and, you thought 1440p was just fine. And in fact, it looks really great. Trust me, if you're using a 1440p monitor, just stick with it, because as soon as you move to 4K, all of a sudden you're not going to want to go back. And when you move to 4K, especially if you're playing AAA title types of games, all of a sudden you're just going to have that itch to upgrade because it's not going to be good enough. And you're going to be upgrading all the time. The 3090 is not good enough. Then the 4090 won't be good enough. And then the 5090 won't be good enough.
You see, this is why they invented a thing called DLSS. It's really simple. It stops people like you from consistently upgrading their graphics cards every single year, completely dumping their money away.
And there will be no end to the upgrading. And so if you're someone who actually respects their wallet, unlike I did spending that much money on a video card that realistically I didn't need, yeah, the experience you're gonna get in the end is gonna be great, but you're gonna be losing out on a lot of money, and really the only thing you're gonna be getting over 1440p is a better looking image, which for a lot of people is definitely worth it. But I'm telling you guys, I gotta be honest, it's probably not gonna be worth it with just the amount of money it takes to drive a 4K panel, and especially a 4K 144 hertz panel.
New consoles seems like they're doing pretty well, especially with that AMD DLSS competitor coming out. That's gonna really drive 4K at 144 hertz.
So yeah, to wrap this video up, guys, 4K 144 hertz is absolutely amazing, especially in HDR. It's like, I can't imagine, you know, displays getting much more pixel dense. It looks just like super crisp and very, very good. But overall, the amount of money you got to spend to maintain those high FPS on those monitors is just well past the point of it being worth it.
This guy still fails to understand most people buying HDMI 2.1 monitors are console gamers trying to game on a monitor. And yeah, cards like the 3060 Ti can definitely do 4K at 144 Hz with games like CSGO or even Overwatch. Like, nobody is trying to play extremely graphically demanding games at such high frame rates at a high resolution. That's obvious. Nobody's gonna go out and buy a 3090 to play something like Apex Legends at 4K 144 Hz. But hey, what do I know? After all, I am arguing against Graphically Challenged.
But hey, that's just what I think. Do you think that buying a 4K monitor is actually worth it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made—
Dude, if you're sticking your finger out because you expect me to pull it, that's not gonna happen. First of all, that thing smells like shit. Second of all, if I pull it, you're gonna take a dump, and that's gonna smell even worse. But anyway, that's the end of the video. You know, just remember, never buy an HDMI 2.1 gaming monitor. 4K at 144 Hz bad. It will single-handedly ruin your life, giving you a better gaming experience, and you're going to find yourself so deep into it, you're not even going to be able to pay for next month's rent. You know what? Scratch that. You're not even going to be able to pay for ramen. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more of this type of content.